What is up, guys? Today I'm going to be counting down my top 10 movies of the 1990s. So without further ado, let's hop in. All right, coming in at number 10, we have The Game. The Game is a very cool movie with Michael Douglas, Sean Penn. It follows this businessman named Michael Van Orton. Now, Van Orton, he's very troubled because he saw the death of his father on his 48th birthday, and it is now Van Orton's 48th birthday. So his brother decides to give him a gift. Well, this isn't a very traditional gift, right? The gift is by this company CRS, and so he goes to kind of cash in his gift, see what he got, and his application is rejected. Now, he's very confused, kind of forgets about it, whatever. But he soon comes to find out that people are after him. There's people after his business. They've taken his credit cards, his bank account. They get a hold of every part of his life, his home. And it's an adventure. He meets this girl, Christine, and she's kind of on this adventure with him, trying to figure out like what the heck is going on. He sees CRS everywhere. He can't sleep. He can't go anywhere because he's being followed. It's a really, really crazy movie. David Fincher directed it, amazing director. It's very trippy, but you guys gotta watch it to see what happens to Van Orton, because man, when I tell you this one's a ride, I mean, this one is insane. Coming in at number 9, we have Fools Rush In. Now, a lot of you guys may not have heard of this. This movie stars Matthew Perry and Salma Hayek. Matthew Perry, Chandler Bing, the best character on Friends. Hilarious. This is a very funny movie. And so Perry's character, Alex Whitman, he's an architect from New York, but he goes on this trip to Vegas, right? And he ends up meeting this girl, Isabel Fuentes. Now, she's a Mexican American, and this guy is just straight white, American. And it's a very funny movie. You see kind of their cultures come together. Certain things that Alex is unfamiliar with comes to light with Fuentes, and it's very funny. Their relationship is something awesome. They end up kind of having a breaking out, a falling out, and then come back together. And it's just really it's a little love story with a lot of humor, a little bit of drama. It's a very, very cool movie. I love Chandler Bing, so I'm already attached to Matthew Perry. He brings that sarcastic kind of charm to this movie too. And of course, Salma Hayek's in it. She's great in everything she does. Very funny movie. And it's one you got to check out, Fools Rush In. Number 8. Now, number 8, I'm willing to bet maybe none of you guys have probably seen this movie. This movie is Blood In, Blood Out. Now, this movie, one of the most underrated movies of all time, in my opinion. There's a little bit of bias, and I'll tell you why. So this movie follows Miklo. This guy, Miklo, he's a Mexican American, but he's half Mexican, right? So he looks Caucasian. He looks white like I do. Well, I relate to this movie because I'm half Mexican and half white. Miklo ends up going and staying with his cousins who are 100%, Mexicans. And, they're kind of troubled youth. They get into a lot of trouble. Miklo, he ends up getting shot. They get into these gang fights, and Miklo ends up in prison. Well, remember, Miklo, although he looks white, he's also Mexican. So in jail, and it's sad to say this, but in a lot of jail systems, it's separated by race. Well, he looks white, so he can have an in with the whites, but he knows Spanish, and he's very proud and embraces his Mexican culture. So he's really in with the Mexican side in jail. So he's kind of playing both sides of the field, but his allegiance is more so to the Chicanos, to the Mexicans. It's a very cool movie. There's a lot of action, a lot of killing. You learn a lot of Mexican slang in this movie, but it kind of follows, Miklo, his arrival, and then kind of his descent down a really bad path as his cousin, Paco. He was in the gangs and stuff, but he becomes a police officer, and he works in law enforcement. So there's kind of that cousin clash that goes on with them. And it's really cool. It's a story about family, about gangs, about culture, and they all come together. Really nice ending. It's a long one, so you better buckle up. But if you haven't seen Blood In, Blood Out, highly, highly, highly recommend it. Number 7, we got Silence of the Lambs. Man, this one of the best acting performances of all time. You know, Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, and then of course you got Jodie Foster. You guys have all heard of the movie, right? You know, there's this cannibal psychopath. He's in jail. That would be Hannibal Lecter. He's kind of being studied and thought out by this detective played by Jodie Foster. It's a very psychologically kind of trippy and scary movie because you don't know quite how to read this Hannibal Lecter. He seems very professional, very well spoken, very together, but he's a murderer. He's a cannibal. He's evil. You know, he ends up escaping from prison. You know, he's locked in like almost maximum security on high alert. He gets out, and there's this chase, and you know, it's a very, very intense movie. Not to mention the whole little side story, which I don't want to get into because that stuff is really, really weird with Buffalo Bill. But you know, great acting performances, really creepy movie. If you haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, you have to check this one out. It's a classic. Number 6, we have Seven. Okay, wait. Number 6, we have the movie Seven. Okay, we have the movie Seven. This has William Somerset and David Mills, played by Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. This movie is super, super, super good. It's kind of gory, but it follows Somerset, who's this detective that's he's gonna retire soon, and then up comes Brad Pitt's character and David Mills that is just kind of starting. He's his new partner. He's Somerset's new partner. Somerset's getting ready to retire, but there's this huge case. And what would you know? They get the case. So they get the case, and they start to realize that there's these murders that are happening, but they're all tied together, and they revolve around the 7 deadly sins. And you're kind of following this guy. He's unable to get caught, but there are a few times where it gets really close, but he's able to get away. Somerset starts refueling his love for the career. You see the kind of headbutting of David Mills and Somerset, but you also start to see how their friendship becomes something true, not only with themselves, but meeting each other's family, and really starting to enjoy each other's presence. This has one of the most insane endings of all time. Every time I watch this and I get to the end, I can't sleep. Very, very emotional, but it's one you gotta watch if you love crime thrillers and stuff. This is definitely one. If you like horror movie thrillers, any type of thriller, psychological, you gotta watch this movie. It's intense. That's 7. Number 6, we have Good Will Hunting. This one's a classic. You got Matt Damon, Ben Affleck wrote it, Robin Williams. You got Will Hunting, he's this genius with this potential that just isn't being reached. He's working as a janitor at an Ivy League school, and he's able to solve these ginormous, incredibly difficult mathematical equations that the class isn't able to solve. But he's just a janitor, and then he works construction. He just lives a very kind of low average life, but he's a genius. And so he ends up kind of getting discovered and almost kind of going on this path to where he could find success. But what do you know? He gets in trouble with the law, and so he runs into this therapist, this psychologist guy, Robin Williams, his character, and they have a very, very unique bond. He doesn't want to be there. He thinks it's stupid. But Robin Williams thought the same way. His character thought the same thing, but now he does this thing for a living. They butt heads a lot at first, but then they form this incredible emotional connection that can never be severed from there on. It's a really, really cool movie. It's got a very satisfying ending. Lots of cool little side characters like Ben and Casey Affleck. It's just one of those movies you turn on when you just kind of want to relax and watch some good film. Good Will Hunting's a classic. Gotta watch it. Now, before I move on, if you guys saw my top 10 movies of all time, then you're going to start wondering why some of this seems a little bit out of order. Well, that's because I watched these movies more than once, and opinions change. It's not like one went from being top 5 of all time and then it's not even there. It's not like that, but they kind of get a little bit reorganized. So if you're wondering why, that's it. That's the simple reason. All right, number 4, we have Fight Club, man. Tyler Durden, man. So, you know, we follow the story of this guy. He's the narrator, but he's the main character, working this job that he doesn't really care about. He has insomnia. He starts going to these like meeting groups, these like helping groups for just random stuff that he doesn't even have. You know, cancer, depression, just, you know, these groups where people meet and try to cope with their emotions, their diseases, and he just goes because it makes him feel better because his life isn't that bad. So he does that, and then, you know, he ends up running into this guy, Tyler Durden, and instead of going to those meetings, they start a fight club, and that's how he starts to cope. So you get all these guys, and they just beat the crap out of each other one-on-one, right? They fight, and they love it. They're having a good time. Well, it ends up leading to something way, way more intense, right? They start stealing stuff, okay? Not good. They start breaking stuff. They start destroying and blowing things up. So it gets way out of proportion. And the narrator and Tyler Durden, they're not like this like they used to be. They're not tight anymore because he doesn't understand why Durden is taking it this far. The end of this movie, again, one of the best plot twists in history. If you haven't seen it, get out from under that rock that you've been living in and go check it out, because this is a great one. It's one you got to pay very close attention to. Another David Fincher movie, all-time great director. Fight Club, get it. All right, number 3, we have The Usual Suspects. Very cool movie. Got one of the Baldwin brothers. Got Kevin Spacey, Benicio del Toro. Very cool movie. Starts out the iconic lineup scene, right? All of these guys are accused and potential suspects of a crime. Well, you know what? They get together. They form this group of evil masterminds, if you will, and they start, you know, carrying out all these crimes. But you know, the more they do, they start hearing about this guy, Keyser Söze, right? So, I heard, you know, these stories start popping up. Keyser Söze did this, and this. This man is business. This man is real. But there's also the theories that he's not even real. People just make him up to scare the guys that are underneath him. And it's all told in like a police room under Verbal, the character Verbal, played by Kevin Spacey. He's kind of recounting the stories. He's this crippled man that was part of the group, but he's being interrogated by this officer basically, and he's walking through everything that led up to this catastrophe that happened, which I won't spoil. But you know, we're talking about all the things that led up to this point in time, and he's recounting the steps, saying everything he knows. They're trying to find out who is Keyser Söze. Again, if you haven't caught it now, I love plot twists. There's another big one in this movie. You got to be sure to check it out. It's a very cool little crime movie if you like that type of thing. Lots of action, some pretty funny moments as well. But yeah, Usual Suspects, very underrated, good movie. Coming in at number 2, we have Goodfellas. All-star cast: Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta. This came out in 1990, so it just barely made the cut. But Goodfellas follows the true story of Henry Hill, right? This guy grew up with his father being part of the mob, and you know, he's always wanted to do it too. And sure enough, he finally gets his chance. He starts doing all these jobs, doing a lot of drugs, having affairs, being with women, you know, kind of living that crazy life that it seems it's very glorified in Hollywood, but of course it's not as good as it really is. Well, you know what, that's actually kind of later revealed, because there's a lot of crap that happens in this guy's life. You know, it starts out real fun, real cool, you know, we're untouchable situations, but it leads to some death, leads to a lot of heartbreak and a lot of stuff like that. But this movie it's so cool because it takes time in a very cool era, you know, very nice cars in the 70s, very cool clothing, very nice jewelry. And, you know, these type of movies, they just keep you reeled in the entire time, right? This movie, I was watching it and I never wanted to take my eyes off the screen because I thought I might miss something. The colors just pop out at you. You know, it's kind of profane, but it is a very, very cool movie, watching Henry Hill's story and all the crazy stuff that he did. Goodfellas, can't say too much about it. It's just a classic. All right, now before we move on, I want to unveil some honorable mentions. First one being The Shawshank Redemption. Now, I know a lot of people are probably like, how is that not on your list? I know, it's a good movie, but this is just my personal opinion, and a lot of these I have personal attachment to. But The Shawshank Redemption, excellent movie. And the other one, American History X, another Edward Norton movie. Very cool. It's got some racial tensions, but it's got a very cool redemptive ending to it. Very good movie. All right, coming in at number 1, we have the Titanic. I know. I promise you I'm still a man, but the Titanic is such a good movie. Such a good movie. You know, you got young Leo, Kate Winslet, the story of Jack Dawson and Rose. Beautiful love story with, a tragic incident that happened in real life. You got this poor boy, Jack Dawson, who ends up winning his way onto this iconic ship, the Titanic, and then Rose, this woman of class and of wealth, who bought her ticket on. Very different ends of the spectrum there, but they end up falling in love, and it's the Titanic's a story of that love, simultaneously telling the true story of, the devastation that happened that night. So it's a very cool movie. You get the romance with the couple, and no matter what social class you're a part of, these two, they love each other and they don't care what anybody thinks of it. And then of course, you see the amazing effects that made this ship sink and everything with it. James Cameron's a wonderful director. It's got a very sad ending, but it's definitely very worth the watch. Long movie, you gotta carve out some time to watch it, but if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what you're doing, because I think it's pretty widely acknowledged as a classic at this point. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Next week we're gonna be talking about my top movies of the 80s. Make sure to subscribe. Once I hit 100 subscribers, I'm giving away a $100 Amazon gift card. Thanks for watching. Follow the Instagram and TikTok. Subscribe. We'll see you next time.